All right, so water,
Okay.
not just like any water. But we're
Right.
talking the water that, you use every single day
Yeah.
to drink, to shower with,
To swim in.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Ever think about how it actually gets clean?
Yeah. It's a good question, right? I mean, we just kind of take it for granted. Just
Yeah.
turn on the tap and there it is.
Exactly.
But making that happen, that takes a lot of work behind the scenes.
It does.
And a lot of that work is done by water quality analysts.
Okay, so that's what we're diving deep into today.
Yeah.
With some really cool resources, by the way, from RoleCatcher.
It's a really, really helpful guide for like anybody who's maybe thinking about this kind of career.
Absolutely.
Or
just curious
they're just curious
about what these analysts actually do.
Yeah. So we're talking about what they do, how you become one, and like why this whole field even matters.
Why it matters, which is huge, especially these days.
Right. It's getting more and more important.
With, climate change.
Yeah. The water challenge.
All the challenges we're facing globally, yeah.
Yeah. It's not just about having like a refreshing glass of water anymore.
No, it's way bigger than that.
Right. It's about ecosystems.
Right, yeah.
Industries, the whole, like everything.
The whole shebang.
Okay. So let's break it down.
Okay.
What does a water quality analyst actually do on a daily basis?
They're like detectives.
Oh, I love that.
But for a water supply, right?
Okay.
So they're out there collecting samples from lakes and rivers and treatment plants,
Okay.
wastewater, you name it.
Wow, so it's not just like pristine mountain streams?
No. Sometimes no.
They're dealing with the nitty-gritty.
The nitty-gritty.
Okay, so they collect the samples and
Right. Then it's back to the lab, right?
Okay.
Where they run all sorts of tests, they analyze the results,
Okay.
and they figure out if there's anything in that water that shouldn't be
Like
there.
CSI.
It is.
But for H2O?
That's a good way to put it.
And their work, it's not just about like, data and numbers.
Right.
It has real-world implications.
Huge.
Yeah, like huge.
Give us an example.
Their findings can actually impact public health policies.
Okay.
They can determine if the water coming out of your tap is safe to drink.
Wow.
And they can even influence like the long-term health of entire ecosystems.
No kidding.
Yeah. So they're kind of like on the front lines of protecting this really, really crucial resource for all of us.
That is a lot of responsibility.
It is.
Okay, so let's say someone is listening.
Yeah.
And they're intrigued. They've got this maybe science background.
Right.
Protecting water sounds, pretty cool.
Yeah.
What does it actually take to become a water quality analyst?
Well, you got to have a solid foundation in science. That's definitely key.
Like what?
So we're talking, degrees in environmental science,
Right.
chemistry, biology.
What class?
Those are the common pathways, yeah.
Okay.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not just about what you learn from a textbook.
Okay, so what else makes a water quality analyst stand out?
It's about those skills,
Yeah.
The ones they don't always teach you in school.
Right, those must-haves to succeed in the field.
Yeah, exactly. The must-haves.
Okay, so what are we talking here?
Well, RoleCatcher, they highlight critical thinking.
Makes sense.
Problem solving, those are essential.
Yeah.
Because you're constantly analyzing data, right?
Mm-hmm.
Troubleshooting unexpected results, like...
Oh, so it's not always straightforward.
No.
There are curveballs.
You got to put the pieces together, figure out what's really going on with that water quality.
So you've got to be a bit of a detective.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, I like it.
It's like a puzzle.
What about communication skills?
Oh, that's a good one.
Because you're dealing with science,
Yeah.
which can get pretty complex.
It can get very complex.
So I imagine being able to explain those findings clearly. That's got to be crucial, right?
It's huge. Whether you're like writing reports,
Mm-hmm.
presenting your findings to, stakeholders.
Right, people who maybe aren't scientists.
Exactly. Or even just communicating with your colleagues.
Yeah, just to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, you got to be able to take all that complex data and translate it into like...
Plain English.
Yeah, clear, concise language.
Okay, so you've got to be a scientist,
Yeah.
a detective,
Uh-huh.
and a good communicator.
Right. It's a big job.
This career path is sounding more interesting by the minute. But, all right, so you land the job.
Right.
You're a water quality analyst.
You did it.
What's next? What does the career progression look like?
That's where that RoleCatcher guide comes in handy.
Okay.
They have a whole section on career stages,
Oh, cool.
which is really, really helpful.
All right, so where does a new analyst, where do they usually start?
So typically you're going to start in a lab setting, maybe as like a junior analyst.
Okay, so starting a little lower on the totem pole?
Yeah, you got to get your feet wet, so to speak.
Silly laughs. See what you did there.
Get that hands-on experience with those like core testing and analysis techniques.
Getting down to the basics.
The basics, yeah.
Okay, so lab work. That's kind of like the boot camp.
It is. It's a good way to put it.
And then what? What happens as they get more experience?
Right. So as they, they gain that experience, they get more confident. They might move into like project leadership roles.
Okay, so more responsibility.
More responsibility, exactly.
Like what kind of things would they be overseeing?
So like designing and overseeing those water quality studies.
Okay.
Really taking the lead on things.
So there's a clear path there within, like the
Yeah.
lab setting or the treatment plant.
Right, exactly.
But what about people who they're drawn to like research?
Oh, interesting.
Or they want to influence policy on like a larger scale?
Yeah.
What happens then? That's where it gets really interesting.
It does.
Because the RoleCatcher guide, they actually highlight
Yeah.
how this expertise can be like a springboard
Right.
to
Yeah.
shaping those bigger picture things like policy and research.
Absolutely.
So what does that look like?
So you might have analysts who, they take their knowledge and they contribute to research projects.
Okay.
Maybe they're investigating like new water treatment technologies
Oh.
or studying the long-term impacts of like pollution on
Okay.
certain ecosystems.
So it's like their work, it goes from the microscope to like
Totally.
zooming out the
Yeah.
bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly. Like
So-
they could be looking at,
Yeah.
microscopic contaminants one day.
Right.
And then the next they're like advising on
Wow.
a huge water management project.
So you can go from like the nitty-gritty lab work to
Yeah.
influencing national water policy potentially.
Potentially, yeah, which is really cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, but for someone who's like just starting out,
Right.
what are some practical steps they can take?
So the RoleCatcher guide, they really emphasize
Yeah.
hands-on experience.
Okay.
Get that early,
Like even before you graduate.
ideally, yeah.
Okay, so what we're talking, internships?
Internships are great,
Okay.
at water treatment facilities,
Okay.
environmental labs, government agencies.
So it's not enough to just like
Yeah.
ace your science classes. You
yeah,
gotta,
get out there.
yeah.
Get your hands dirty, literally.
Literally. Okay, I like it.
And volunteering, too.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
That's huge.
What, like for water quality monitoring?
Yeah, like monitoring restoration projects.
Okay.
Those are fantastic ways to,
Get your foot in the door.
get your foot in the door, gain some practical skills, and like connect with people who share your passion.
Speaking of passion,
Yeah,
how important is that in this field?
I think it's huge.
Because you're dealing with data. You're dealing with analysis, which can be
Right, it can be very,
dry.
yeah, it can be very technical.
So is there room for like
Yeah.
genuine enthusiasm in that?
Absolutely.
Because it's not just about,
Yeah.
crunching numbers in a lab.
Uh-huh.
It's about protecting something that's like essential for life.
That's a good point.
Right. So the best water quality analysts,
Yeah?
I think they're driven by this like genuine desire to actually make a difference.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Uh-oh.
Like that extra level of like
That dog wow.
dedication that kind of fuels them,
Yes.
pushes them to find solutions.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got passion, we've got the hands-on experience.
Right.
What about certifications?
Oh, yes, certifications.
Because RoleCatcher mentions those.
They do. They're important.
Are they really, though? Like, how much weight do they actually carry?
I think they're really valuable
Okay.
for a couple of reasons.
Right.
One, they show,
You're committed to professional development,
Right.
that you're staying up to date.
because this field is constantly changing.
Always evolving, always changing, yeah.
Okay.
And then employers, they
Yeah.
see them as a mark of, like,
Competence.
competence, expertise.
Yeah. That you're serious.
Exactly.
Okay, so which certifications are we talking about specifically?
So two of the big ones
Okay.
are the CWT,
What's that stand for?
Certified Water Technologist,
Okay.
and then the CWQP,
What's that?
Certified Water Quality Professional.
Okay, so those are like the gold standard.
Those are the ones I have, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So it's like choosing your water warrior armor.
Laugh.
I like that.
Gotta be prepared.
Okay, so let's say someone has,
Yeah.
the education, the experience, maybe even a certification or two.
Hmm.
They're prepping for a job interview.
Right.
What can they do to really shine?
Oh, preparation is key.
Okay.
And this is where like RoleCatcher really.
Proves its worth.
Okay.
Because their interview guide
Yeah.
is amazing.
What do you mean?
They have like tons of potential questions,
Okay.
insights into what interviewers are like actually looking for in responses.
So it's not just about like memorizing answers.
Yeah, no.
It's about understanding
Swag.
the why behind them.
Yeah.
Okay, so give me an example. Like,
Okay, so one question that often trips people up
okay.
is, can you describe a time you encountered like an unexpected result
Okay.
in your analysis, and how did you handle it?
Oh, so they're like throwing you a curveball.
Yeah, they want to see
Yeah.
how you think on your feet.
Okay.
Can you troubleshoot when things go wrong?
Right, because in a lab,
Yeah.
things don't always go according to plan.
Never. No.
Okay, so how do you answer that question?
So you want to like highlight your thought process, right?
Right.
The steps you took to like investigate what was the discrepancy, and then ultimately, what was the outcome.
So you're showing them you can be a detective,
Exactly.
even when things get tough.
Yeah. Another one they often ask is like, how do you stay up to date with like the latest advancements?
Because this field is so fast-paced.
Constantly changing.
Always new stuff coming out.
So they want to see, like, are you involved in professional organizations? Are you reading industry publications?
Okay.
Going to conferences?
So showing them your, like, thirsting for knowledge.
Yes, exactly.
I like it.
Gotta stay curious.
Okay, so before we wrap this up, I want to talk about, like, the future of water quality. Like, what's on the horizon? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities?
It's a really interesting time for the field.
Okay.
Because on the one hand, we have all these challenges, right? We have emerging contaminants.
Emerging contaminants, what is that?
So these are contaminants that, like, we're just starting to understand. Things like, pharmaceuticals, personal care products.
So, like, stuff we use every day.
Yeah. Microplastics. You've probably heard of those.
Right. The tiny little plastics.
Everywhere.
That are, like, in everything now.
Yeah, they're really hard to get rid of.
Okay. So those are emerging contaminants.
And the thing is, we don't really know their long-term impact yet.
That's a little scary.
It is a little scary, right?
So water quality analysts are kind of on the front lines of figuring that out.
Figuring out how to detect them.
Okay.
How to manage them. Yeah.
So it's challenging.
It is challenging.
But it's also, like you said, a really interesting time.
It's an exciting time to be in the field because even though we have these challenges, we also have like incredible advancements happening.
Like what?
Like in water treatment technologies, data analysis, our understanding of water systems is like
constantly evolving.
Constantly evolving, yeah.
So it feels like we're kind of on the cusp of like this whole new era of water science.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a cool time to be involved.
Yeah, it really does feel like, I don't know, almost like a turning point,
Totally. And for anybody out there who like loves science, problem solving, and really wants to make like a tangible difference, water quality analysis, this field it's got so much potential.
You've said tangible a few times.
Yeah.
What makes this field so, like, real?
Well, think about it. Every time you turn on your tap, right?
Yeah.
You drink a glass of water, you don't even think twice.
Exactly. I just, fill up my glass. And I assume it's fine.
But chances are, a water quality analyst, they played a part in making that happen.
Interesting.
Their work, it's about protecting that fundamental resource that, we all need.
It's easy to forget how important that is.
Totally.
Because we just take it for granted.
We do. We really do.
Until something goes wrong.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
But it's not just about us, right?
No, not at all.
It's about the environment, too.
Right. So by keeping an eye on the water quality in rivers and lakes, oceans, they're helping to protect entire ecosystems.
Wow.
They're helping to preserve biodiversity.
So they're looking out for both people and the planet.
Yeah, I like to think of them as kind of like guardians,
Guardians, that's a good word.
The unsung heroes working behind the scenes.
Totally. Because most of us, we don't even realize they're there.
Exactly, until something goes wrong.
Right.
But they're the ones making sure that our water is safe.
Keeping everything running.
Keeping it sustainable, yeah.
And we've learned so much about them today.
We have. It's been fascinating.
Thanks to RoleCatcher.
Yeah, they've been a great resource.
If you are thinking about this career path, their platform is like the place to go.
Yes, seriously. They break it all down.
It's been amazing to have like this backstage pass
right.
to the world of water quality.
Yeah, we've gotten to see like
the day-to-day stuff.
The day-to-day, the big picture.
It's impact.
The skills you need.
All of it.
The education, certifications.
And those interview tips.
Oh, yeah, those were clutch.
RoleCatcher did not disappoint.
Not at all, not at all.
So for anyone listening who's like maybe feeling a little inspired, what's like one final thought you can leave them with?
I would say stay curious.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, this field, it's all about wanting to understand, wanting to protect this vital resource. So if you are passionate about science, you want to make a difference, you like solving problems, then honestly, water quality analysis, it might be the perfect fit for you.
There you go. Something to think about.
Yeah.
Next time you're, sipping your water.
Exactly.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Thanks for having me.